I need a reasonable and articulable reason for stopping me.
We got a call about you being out here.
Standing on the side of the road? Is that illegal? Is that illegal, standing on the side of the road?
It's not, but if somebody calls it in, we're going to come out and investigate it.
Okay, but have I broken the law?
No. Did we say that?
Okay.
Everything's cool. Do you have a driver's license on you, brother?
Did I do anything wrong?
We're just, like I said,
Then I don't need to show my ID.
Well, we're investigating an instance, sir. I just want to make sure everything's all right.
Everything's all right. Am I being
We
detained?
got no proof you live here. So.
Am I being detained? Am I being detained?
At this time, yes, you are.
Okay.
Under what suspicion of a crime?
Because there's no suspicion of a crime.
Then you can't
but we're
detain me.
Investigating, okay?
But you can't detain me if there's no reasonable suspicion. Do you have reasonable and articulable
So right
suspicion?
now, we're going to go talk to the Mercedes.
No, you can't come on the
Be
property.
cool, okay?
Nope, you can't come on the property. No trespassing.
Alrighty, folks, this all started with a simple welfare check. The man told officers he was fine and didn't need help, but instead of wrapping things up, deputies from Behar County and officers from Somerset PD kept pressing. Despite no crime being committed, they demanded ID and eventually put him in handcuffs. The officers claimed that someone had called in to report a suspicious situation involving a Mercedes allegedly circling the man. He was on what he identified as his sister's private property, helping his father when officers stopped him, seized his knife, and began demanding identification, despite admitting he was fine and had not broken any laws. Even if the report about the Mercedes were true, being circled by a vehicle is not a crime. As tensions rose, the man challenged the legality of the stop and refused to consent to a search or allow the officers to trespass on the property. Nevertheless, the officers escalated the situation and ultimately detained him without clearly articulating any specific crime.
Helping out my dad. Can I have my knife back?
Yes, I'm going to give it right back to you, brother. Don't worry. Look, I'm going to sit right here. Okay, I'll give it right back to you.
I need a reasonable and articulable reason for stopping me.
We got a call about you being out here.
Standing on the side of the road? Is that illegal? Is that illegal, standing on the side of the road?
It's not, but if somebody calls it in, we're going to come out and investigate it.
Okay, but have I broken the law?
Did we say that?
Okay, so can I have my knife back?
I'll give it right back to you, sir.
No, I need it back now because it's mine.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. We'll give it right back to
Don't
you.
worry that way.
Yes, it does.
No, it
Yes, it actually does. I know my rights.
Okay, awesome, sir.
Ha ha ha, it's funny. It's hilarious. Yeah, it's hilarious.
Sir, so what's going on with this Mercedes right here? Who's that? Do you know that?
Yeah, that's my dad.
That's your dad?
Yeah.
So we got a call about him and you and, I don't know, I guess circling you?
Yeah, they said he was circling you, so somebody probably thought you were in trouble.
No, not in
That's why
trouble.
We're out here.
No, not in trouble. So everything's cool.
Everything's cool. Do you have a driver's license on you, brother?
Did I do anything wrong?
We're just, like I said, we're...
Then I don't need to show my ID.
Well, we're investigating an instance, sir. I just want to make sure everything's all right.
Everything's all right.
Well, I mean, you're being a little hostile. That's
I am being hostile because you stopped me on private property and you took my knife away from me, which is a legal seizure.
Okay.
I would like to have it back.
Like I said, sir, we're investigating an incident that took place.
Okay.
I took your knife just for my safety, your safety. You're gonna give it right back. I'm gonna give it right back to you. Okay? That's not an issue. But you have an ID?
I don't have to give that.
What's your name? What's your name? Date of birth?
I don't have to give that either.
Okay. What do you want to do?
I know my rights.
What's exactly going on?
I'm here.
No, I mean, we got a call that a Mercedes was circling you.
Okay.
Is there anything going on? Do you need help?
Nope, don't need any help.
Okay. Do you live here?
That's none of your business.
Yeah, it is my business.
No, it's not.
Okay. You're going to get yourself in trouble. I mean, are you here?
Is that a threat? Are you threatening me?
No,
Are you threatening me?
No, I'm asking you. You said I was going to get myself in trouble.
I'm asking you, do you live here because are you breaking into houses or you're just here hanging out?
Did somebody call say I was breaking into houses?
I'm telling you, I already told you why we got the call.
Okay, then I don't need any help. I'm fine.
But do you live in the area? Do you live in the house?
That's none of your business.
It is our business.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
When somebody calls us to investigate an incident, it becomes our business.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, it does.
No, it doesn't. And I know you're allowed to lie to me, so I don't really care. I really don't care. I'd like my knife back, and I'd like to go on about my business.
Okay.
Everything's fine.
Well, sir, like I said, we want to make sure that you're okay. Want to make sure the whole situation's okay.
Yep, and I'm perfectly fine.
It's crazy how we're getting a call, Mercedes circling you. All of a sudden, I see a Mercedes drive right past you, and then it comes up on this property.
Okay.
Originally, I was going to go down there, but you started walking towards the Mercedes, so I want to see what's going on with that.
Yeah, there's no problem.
So, what's your name, sir?
You don't need my name.
Where did it go?
Yeah, the Mercedes is down here.
You don't need my name.
Let's go talk to the Mercedes.
Okay. All right.
No trespassing.
We'll be right back.
No trespassing.
Okay.
Am I being
We
detained?
got no proof you live here. So.
Am I being detained? Am I being detained?
At this time, yes, you are.
Okay.
Under what suspicion of a crime?
Because there's no suspicion of a crime.
Then you can't
but we're
detain me.
investigating, okay?
But you can't
We're
detain me if there's no
investigating.
reasonable suspicion. Do you have reasonable and articulable
So right
suspicion?
now, we're going to go talk to the Mercedes.
No, you can't come on the
be
property.
cool, okay?
Nope, you can't come on the property. No trespassing. That would be trespassing.
You gonna be all right with him?
Yeah.
No trespassing, and I'd like my knife back.
I'll get right back to you, all right, brother?
No, I need my
Hey,
knife.
hey,
Am I being detained?
Yes, you are.
Under what suspicion of a crime?
You're being detained right now. We need
Under
to figure-
what suspicion of a crime? Do you have a reasonable and articulable suspicion of a crime?
Look, sir.
You're on your way to getting sued.
Okay, that's,
You are on your way to getting sued.
Okay, sir. Like I said, just like anyone, if you were to call,
You're violating my civil rights. You asked me if I was okay. I told you I'm okay.
okay,
Now give me my knife back and let me go.
okay, sir. If you were calling it, okay, let's just say you dial 911. You dial 911. We're here to make sure that everything's okay, right? Like he said,
This is Von Army too. You're out of your jurisdiction.
Okay, well, I'm assisting another agency. This is county action.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. You're out of your jurisdiction.
Okay,
This is
that's
Von
fine.
Army.
Well, I'm a Texas police officer. Okay, so Texas.
No, you're not. Okay, you're not highway patrol. You can't just go anywhere.
Okay. All right, I can't. Okay. Well, with that being said, sir, like I said,
I would
we
like
don't
my
know-
property back. I have no interest in what you have to say, but I want my property back.
I'm gonna give it right back to you. Okay.
Right now.
We're investigating the incident. I don't know if you live here.
What incident?
I don't know if you live here.
What incident?
Okay.
Is having a Mercedes circle me illegal?
Well, we don't know what's going on. We don't know.
You don't have to. You don't have to have your nose in everybody's business like you think you do. You're just a cop. There's no crime being committed. I'd like my shit back, please. Now.
I guess we're gonna pull up right now and then.
No, you're not. No trespassing.
Actually, just
This is my sister's property. This is my sister's property. No, this is my sister's property. No trespassing.
okay. So it's your sister's property, not your property.
No, and no trespassing. Absolutely no trespassing. You're seizing my knife by taking it with you.
I'm not. I'm moving my vehicle, all right, sir?
I need my knife back.
I'll be right back.
Now.
Can y'all make it by my Tahoe? Or are you gonna move it?
You're not pulling up here. No trespassing. I'd say it in Spanish, but I don't know Spanish.
Legally speaking, the man raises several valid points during this encounter. First, under the Fourth Amendment, officers must have reasonable suspicion based on specific articulable facts to detain someone. Simply saying, "we got a call," isn't enough. He also correctly invokes his right to withhold ID unless lawfully detained, which aligns with Texas Penal Code 38.02G, stating that refusal to identify is not a crime unless you're under lawful arrest. Additionally, the seizure of his knife without immediate cause or returning it promptly may constitute an illegal seizure, as there was no clear threat or crime. Finally, if he had authority to speak for the property and warned officers not to trespass, their continued presence without a warrant or exigent circumstances could be a Fourth Amendment violation. Minutes later, the officers return from a call with their supervisor, who out of thin air orders the man to be placed in handcuffs.
Is that a
All right,
racist
sir.
comment, sir?
Hey, I spoke to my supervisor and he said to put you in handcuffs.
Is that what he
So
said?
that's what you got to do.
Okay,
Turn
so an
around.
illegal detain. You're detaining me?
Yes, sir.
For what? What crime have I committed?
You
right
don't
now
want,
you're entering an
you do
investigation.
not want to identify yourself.
No, I don't have to.
Okay, great.
And you can pick that up.
Outstanding. We will. No weapons?
I got the knife.
I do not consent to searches.
Okay, outstanding.
I do not consent to searches.
Outstanding, sir. Thank you.
Don't smack me.
Come on. All right, let's go, sir.
Where are we going?
Over here. We're over here.
Am I being arrested?
Sir,
You're being
stop.
detained. Come on.
Things really go off the rails when one officer returns with orders to put him in handcuffs, as if a supervisor's word magically overrides the Constitution. That's not how the law works. Supervisors don't get to invent legal justification out of thin air. Detaining someone still requires reasonable suspicion, period. Add to that the veiled threat of you're going to get yourself in trouble, which borders on intimidation for simply asserting rights. And the situation quickly shifts from an investigation to something that looks a lot more like retaliation. Between the unlawful detention, seizure of property, and blatant disregard for private property rights, this encounter checks multiple boxes for serious constitutional red flags and a potentially straightforward lawsuit. This incident happened about a month ago, and now here's the man himself explaining how the case is progressing.
What I do have is an update on the statement that I'm turning into internal affairs of exactly what happened so that we can see what they think about everything. And this will kind of let y'all know what happened that you didn't see in the video. And we'll add a lot of context to things. And we'll see if y'all still feel the same way by the end of this. So this is what I have for reporting. I'm reading it off of my phone. Monday, March 17th, 2025 at about 12:30 p.m. My father and I were at my sister's house in Von Army, Texas. We were adjusting the boost controller on his car, which requires him to drive up and down the road, periodically stopping so that I could make the necessary adjustments. After making a few adjustments, we noticed a blue Dodge pickup truck pull up to the intersection of Rockport and Benton City Road. It made a left-hand turn southbound towards the sharp corner on Benton City Road. My father noticed that they were staying there for an unusually long period of time. They turned around and headed back towards us. They made a left turn onto a dirt road that is directly across from the Rockport intersection heading west. My dad then mentioned to me that he believed that they were going to complain to Miss Betty, who is my sister's landlord, about us being on the side of the road. I explained to him that we were doing nothing wrong, so we might as well finish what we were doing. I then noticed the same blue Dodge truck had crept up to the entrance of that same dirt road and was just sitting there watching us. I ignored them and turned my attention back to my dad and the birds chirping. As I stood there waiting for my dad to return, I noticed a Bexar County Sheriff patrol car, it's actually a patrol SUV, but whatever, pull up to the intersection of Rockport and Benton City Road, pointing west. I then saw my dad's car heading south on Benton City Road. My dad then turned onto my sister's driveway, which is approximately 40 feet from the intersection the sheriff's car was stopped at. I followed behind my dad on foot. I should mention that her driveway is about 50 yards long, and it requires you to take a left turn at the end of the driveway to get to her house. And the reason I put that is because when you go down there and you turn left, you can't see the end of the driveway from there. Next thing I know, a Somerset police car pulls up to my left as I was walking down the driveway. At this point, I'm about 25 yards onto my sister's property. The officer in the car yelled out to me, "Hey, are you all right?" I can't remember exactly what I said, but I do remember him asking me if I was okay. I do remember telling him I was fine. He then asked me to take my hands out of my jacket pockets, to which I complied. I know I didn't have to, but I did anyways. That is when he exited his car, walked over to me, and began patting me down and stating it was for officer safety. He then asked if I had any weapons on me. I replied, telling him that I had a pocket knife in my front pocket, and then informed him that I do not consent to searches. That is when he reached into my jeans pocket and pulled my knife out and tossed it into his car. Well, y'all can see in the video when he put it into his car. At this point, I informed him that this was a violation of my Fourth Amendment rights and that I would like my knife back. He then said he would give it back to me in a minute, to which I replied, "No, you need to give it back to me now." He then repeated what he just said. At this point, I began recording on my phone. I'm going to skip ahead to after the recording was stopped, as everything prior to that can be seen on the video that I presented. The reason I posted that video on Facebook is because the sergeant at Internal Affairs told me that I could post it on Facebook and then just give her the link so that they could have the video. That's why it got posted on there in the first place. I really didn't expect it to take off like it did. I heard the silver-haired deputy say that the supervisor told him to put me in handcuffs. Just to let you know, the silver-haired deputy, the reason why I say that is because when I spoke to the sergeant after I got out of jail, I had mentioned the silver-haired deputy that was the arresting officer, and I didn't know what his name was. I still don't know what his name is yet. So she knows who I'm talking about when I say the silver-haired deputy. Anyways, I heard the silver-haired deputy say that his supervisor told him to put me in handcuffs. I went to place my hands behind my back, and as I did, the officer to my right forcefully grabbed my arms, which caused me to drop my phone. At this point, Deputy N. Regalado, badge 2059, he was the one in the video that wasn't the Somerset police officer, but the one to my left, the one that laughed when I said that I know my rights. That was N. Regalado. Picked up my phone and stopped the recording. The silver-haired deputy then came and said, "Let's put him in the car." I responded by saying, "No, you're not." I then tightened my body up. Y'all can kind of hear that part on the video. That's about when the video stopped, when I said, no, you're not. It becomes a little fuzzy at this point in my memory, but I do remember resisting them, trying to, what I believe, was kidnap me and telling them that I was going to sue them and fuck them up in court. Now, on that part, I did say, I'm going to fuck you up, but I did actually mean that as in I'm going to fuck you up in court. But still, I believe that they was kidnapping me, and they had no reason to arrest me anyways. Where was I at? Kidnapped me and telling them that I was going to sue them and fuck them up in court. They then forcefully dragged me to the cruiser and attempted to put me inside. I actually stuck my leg out and put it on the like the running board Nerf bar thing on the side of the cruiser, and locked my knee, and they couldn't get me in the cruiser. And at that point, the silver-haired deputy kneed me as hard as he could in my leg, and I still refused to get in the cruiser. The same deputy then said, put him on the ground. Out of exhaustion, as well as being okay with not being placed in the car, I allowed them to do that. The same deputy then tried to shove my face into the dirt, tightening the handcuffs in the process, which caused me to lose feeling in my right hand. Ever since he did that I cannot feel this part of my thumb right here. I lost feeling in my thumb right here because it was so tight right here and it swelled up. And today is the 29th. It's been 12 days since this happened, and I still have little feeling in my thumb right here. Which caused me to lose the feeling. My right hand. I begged them to loosen the cuffs due to the excruciating pain I was feeling. They responded they aren't meant to be comfortable. I screamed, I can't feel my fucking thumb. They then told me that EMS was on its way. It was at this point my father and sister arrived and began questioning the officers as to why I was in handcuffs and on the ground. Like I said, they couldn't. He couldn't see that the officers had actually pulled up on me or any of that. He had pulled all the way up to my sister's house in his car, and he actually kind of seen through the trees when I didn't show up right away that the cops were down there messing with me, and he came down there to see what was going on. Father and sister began questioning the officers while I was handcuffed on the ground. Okay. At some point, more officers and sheriff deputies from both Somerset and Bexar County showed up, including the Somerset Police Department police chief. One of the Somerset officers gave me some water. So I'm going to go ahead and pause at this point right here. I was on the ground beside the police cruiser, right beside the edge of the road, and more Somerset Police Department officers showed up, and I asked who they were and why they were there, and the one said that he was the police chief, and I told him what was going on. I said, I didn't do anything wrong. I don't know what's going on here. And I said, I can't feel my fucking thumb. I was throwing a fit because I was upset. And yes, I was cussing the officers out because I was really upset that they was dragging me around and throwing me on the ground and everything else. And he said, unfortunately, it wasn't my department that put the handcuffs on you, so I can't loosen them up. I can't do anything about it. My mouth was completely dry. I had no spit in my mouth at all. And one of the officers that showed up after the fact of me being thrown on the ground and everything gave me some water. When EMS finally arrived, they asked me if they could take my vitals. I explained to them that my vitals were fine, and the issue was with my hand, that I couldn't feel my thumb due to the cuffs being so tight. It was at this point that the silver-haired deputy walked over to us and stated to the EMS, those handcuffs do not come off. I then stated to the paramedic again that I needed them loosened because I still could not feel my thumb. The paramedic asked me again if he could take my vitals. I reiterated to him once again that my vitals are fine and that the issue was my hand. The paramedic then stood up and said to the deputy, he is refusing vitals, so I'm leaving. And he left the scene. After sitting there for another 10 minutes, the same silver-haired deputy came over to me and stated, get up, it's time to go. I asked him where we were going, and he stated we were going to see a judge. I asked him why and if I was under arrest. He said yes, and then I asked him what I was being arrested for. All he said in response was, I already told you. I replied, no, you didn't. What are you arresting me for? He then said, resisting detention. I then yelled out to my dad to let him know I was being arrested. I was placed in the cop car without resisting. As they were shutting the door, I yelled out to my dad to call my wife. I would like to state that up to this point that I had not been told that I was under arrest, and once I was informed, I complied with the officers and did not resist, which all can be clearly seen and heard from the police body camera footage if they were still recording. The following is a statement from my sister. I'm not going to say her name on this video because she didn't tell me if I could or couldn't. The arresting time was 12:48 p.m. The deputy that had my brother's phone, the one who stopped the recording after everyone had already left, drove back to my house at 3:30 p.m., almost 3 hours later, to give me his phone. I didn't know why they still had it. The entire time of the arrest to the body scan at the county jail, my handcuffs were never loosened or adjusted, causing me to lose feeling in my right thumb as well as leaving visible cuts on my wrist, which all continues to this day. You can kind of sort of see a little bit the scarring. Well, the camera on my laptop's crappy, but you can kind of see the scarring a little bit right here on my thumb, or on my hand rather, right there. And there was another one. I don't know if it'll even show up in the camera, but you can kind of see a line here from where the handcuffs got me. I actually have pictures on my wife's phone. And it also had cuts and marks on my right lower back. Anyways, upon entering the county jail through the Sally Port, the deputy sat in his car for approximately 15 minutes writing his report. I was sitting in the back seat, still handcuffed. He then turned his car off and began taking pictures of his report with his cell phone. While I was asking him to please loosen the cuffs because they were hurting, he ignored me. After what felt like another 10 minutes, he stated that it was time to go inside. I then asked once again for the cuff to be loosened due to the pain. He then said, "What's that?" as if he couldn't hear me. I repeated myself, to which he replied, "Okay, we'll get those cuffs off right now." Excuse me. He then walked me into the door with the cuffs still on. We stood there for another 10 minutes with me still in cuffs. There were two other deputies standing in the adjacent doorway talking about trucks, RVs, and generators. I wasn't upset at them, so I joined their conversation. At this point, the officers asked the silver-haired officer who was with me, "This guy seems nice. What's he in for?" To which my deputy replied, he wouldn't give me his ID, to which I replied, "You never gave me reasonable and articulable suspicion of a crime." That's when the other deputy responded with, "Oh, he's one of those." I then responded to him by saying, "Yeah, I'm one of those who likes his rights." He responded, "Trust me, nobody likes their rights more than us." He then asked me, "You have red dirt all over you. Did they have to tackle you?" Before I could answer him, the silver-haired deputy interrupted and stated he wouldn't get in the car. I replied, "You never told me I was under arrest." He ignored me and stated to the other deputy I couldn't tase him because he was in handcuffs, to which the other deputy responded by saying, "Oh, he's one of those handcuff warriors, huh?" I responded by stating it didn't stop him from kicking me, to which the deputy responded, "Oh yeah, I would have done much worse." At this point, a female officer came into the room and removed my handcuffs. I thanked her for doing that and reiterated to her how much my hand hurt. She didn't respond, but instead escorted me to the body scan. I'm skipping over the uneventful section with the body scan and the strip search and back to where the abuse and mistreatment continued. After the body scan, they took me to the medical area where all they did was take my vitals and weighed me. I refused the TB test. While I was waiting to be strip searched, the silver-haired officer from earlier returned and started asking me mental health questions such as, "Are you depressed? Have you ever been suicidal? Do you feel like killing yourself right now?" After answering all of his questions, he responded with, "Congratulations, you passed." That's when I noticed he had my property bag in his hand. He stated, "I have a ring, a smartwatch, and a belt." And then he asked, "Where are your shoestrings?" I handed them to him. I asked him where my phone, wallet, and keys were, to which he replied, "I have no idea." I responded with, "You should. You took them from me." He simply repeated his previous statement. After I was taken to set up my phone pin, signed for my property at inmate banking, and asked the people in inmate banking about my phone, wallet, and keys, they said that what was there is what was brought to them, and if anything else was brought to them, they would have me come back and sign for it. They then escorted me to the main holding area. Without sitting down, I immediately walked over to a phone and attempted to make a call. This is where Officer J. Campos screamed at me from across the room, "Get off the phone now." I hung up the phone and went to find a seat. Campos continued, "Now because of you, everyone has to wait longer to use the phone." Which upset the other people in the holding area. Several of them yelled at the officer he just got here, he didn't know. I quietly mumbled something under my breath in frustration over him trying to turn the others against me. He then yelled at me, "I'm sorry, did you have something you wanted to say?" To which I replied, "Shut the fuck up," and went to sit down. He sent another officer over to me. That officer told me to stand up, and I asked why, and he responded, "Because I said so." I looked at him and said, "What happened to innocent until proven guilty?" He replied, "Nobody said you were guilty of anything." So I stood up and he escorted me towards the single cells. It was at this point, in front of the men's toilet, a very tall, very large Hispanic or Samoan looking officer placed his hand on my chest and ordered me to stop. He then looked at Officer Campos, who was standing behind me, and said, "Put him in cuffs first." Campos grabbed my wrist, turned my right hand palm to the right, and left my left hand palm facing right, leaving my right arm twisted in a very uncomfortable position, literally forcefully slapped the cuffs on my wrists, and then grabbed my arm and escorted me into a solitary cell. As he walked me into the cell, he said under his breath, "Good luck keeping your pants dry," before he slammed the door into my back, forcing me into the cell. For what felt like 30 minutes, I was in the cell by myself, still in handcuffs. I pleaded with them to take the handcuffs off so I could use the toilet, and all I got in response from them was saying, "That's tough." Even the trustees outside my cell were telling me that it wasn't right what they were doing, and they were going to talk to the officers about it. It took me banging my head against the wall of the cell for someone to come in and uncuff me. They literally left me in there by myself for 7 hours without food or water. I saw them skip my cell when it was mealtime. For the majority of the night, I was left in the cell alone. That's when I began to whistle. I was whistling to absolutely just annoy them. I whistled every tune that I could think of, and then I started loud whistling, the kind of whistling that you do with the two fingers, just to get them to fucking pay attention that I was in that room, because I was just left in there for what felt like to just die. That is when I began to whistle. That is when they brought someone else into the cell with me. Next mealtime, they brought bologna sandwiches. I asked several times throughout the night for my phone call and was ignored each time. The entire time I was in there, I did not get one single phone call. I had no idea where my phone was, my wallet, my keys, none of that, and I couldn't make a phone call. They wouldn't let me. They just left me in that cell. It wasn't until I was released I was able to make a phone call. The public defender even asked for me to have a phone call, and they ignored him. I was finally let out of my cell to join other people maybe an hour before sunrise the following morning. It was at this point that they finally let me see medical personnel, where they asked me about my medical history. At this point, it was shift change, and I want to point out that I've been in ankle cuffs this entire time. The sergeant on the new shift came in to release my ankle cuffs and to let me go because I was bailed out, and even she mentioned to me that they were on too tight. I agreed with her. She asked if I had told anyone about it. I said yes several times. She asked, "And they never took them off?" I replied, "No, they just readjusted them." Now, this next part that I put in this complaint was Texas Admin Code 273.6. Inmates exhibiting behavior indicating that they are dangerous to themselves or others shall be managed in such a way as to minimize the threat of injury or harm. If the restraints are determined to be necessary, they shall be used in a humane manner only for the prevention of injury and not as a punitive measure. The decision to apply restraints shall be made by supervisory or medical personnel. Appropriate staff should assess the inmate's medical condition. Restraints should restrict movement of an inmate only to the degree necessary to avoid injurious behavior. Soft or padded restraints should be used when feasible. Inmates shall not be restrained in a position or manner that would exacerbate any physical infirmities. The documented observation of the inmates shall be conducted every 15 minutes at a minimum. The observation should include an assessment of the security of the restraints and inmate circulations to the extremities. The inmate should receive medical care a minimum of every 2 hours to include changing position, exercising extremities, offering nourishments and liquids, toilet facilities, and checking for medication needs and taking vital signs. These checks shall be documented. Documentation of the use of restraints shall include, but not limited to, the following: events leading up to the need for restraints, the time the restraints were applied, the justification for the use of the restraints, observation of the inmate's behavior and condition, the 15-minute checks, the time the restraints were removed. Skipping over 6 due to it referring to pregnant inmates. At the very end of the code, it states, restraints shall be removed from an inmate at the earliest possible time that the inmate no longer exhibits behavior necessitating restraints. In no case shall an inmate be left in restraints longer than 24 hours. When I was finally released, I went to retrieve my property. Somehow, my driver's license and my new Class M license were in my property bag. After I filled out my bond paperwork, my dad came to pick me up, and we immediately went to Internal Affairs to file a complaint. So that was my entire statement to Internal Affairs that will be turned in Monday. And I have a list of lawyers I need to try and call Monday. The lawyers that I've tried to call so far have either told me that they don't have time or they don't deal with civil rights cases. I'm just trying to get this figured out. They dropped the failure to ID, but kept the resisting arrest charge. They dropped that while I was still in jail. They dropped the failure to ID, but they kept the resisting arrest charge. And yeah, so I'm just waiting to find out what happens. My court date is I think it's the 16th of April. Yes, 16th of April at 9:30 a.m. at County Court 12 in Bexar County in San Antonio. So, yeah, that's what I'm going for. And they didn't give me a court-appointed attorney, so I don't know what the heck I'm supposed to do. I can't afford an attorney. My wife is the only one that works. I'm a stay-at-home dad. I take care of my baby when she works in a hospital, so she's not a nurse, so she doesn't make a whole lot of money. So I don't know why they're not giving me a court-appointed attorney. So, but I guess we'll figure it out as it happens, and I'll give y'all an update as soon as I figure something out. But yeah, that's my update. And thank you guys for all of your support so far. It really does mean a lot to me, feeling like somebody's on my side about this, because I was literally just having a normal day trying to help my dad with his car, and then all of this happened, and now I have all this to worry about. So, once again, thank you guys for your support. It really does mean a lot.
As we continued to follow up on the case, a month later, the man updated us on what really happened before the second arrest. He revealed that the chain of events began with a road rage incident in San Antonio where another driver accused him of brandishing a firearm.
Okay, I have an update on everything that's going on, but first I have to give you a little bit of history on what's going on in my life right now so that y'all can understand how crazy things just got. So, early last year, there was a road rage incident between me and another guy on the interstate in San Antonio. The guy ends up trying to follow me to my job, and my job is gated access, and when I tried to scan in, he was trying to piggyback into the parking lot, and I stopped and kept him from coming into the parking lot, and I called the security at my work to come get this guy out of there. And it turns out that while he was sitting there behind me, he called the police department and said that I pointed a gun at him while we was going down the road. And this is after this dude had chased me for a couple of miles. So the police show up and the security shows up. They put me in handcuffs and asked me if I have a gun in my car. And I said, yes, I do. And I'm asking them why they're asking that, and they're saying, well, he's saying that you pointed a gun at him. And I said, well, I did not point a gun at that guy. I don't know what he's talking about. And then they asked me, well, how did he know that you have a gun? I told them, I says, because everybody in Texas has a gun, pretty much. So they accepted that answer. They asked what happened in the road rage incident. I told them, blah, 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 whatever. They let both of us go. They tell him to go home, I get to go to work, whatever. Fast forward way later, I leave the job that I was working at, I stopped working there, and I'm going to go to a job interview at another job, and I get pulled over while I'm trying to find this place for speeding on the frontage road, which I wasn't speeding, but whatever. I think the guy ran plates on my dad's car that I was driving and seen the last name and saw that there was a warrant out, because when I got pulled over, I found out that I had a warrant for my arrest. The warrant is because when the officers filed their report, that they turned it in to the district attorney, and the district attorney decided that they wanted to try and prosecute on deadly conduct, because with no other proof than that guy's say-so, that they're trying to say that, yes, you pointed a gun at him and we're going to try and prosecute. Didn't tell me that I had a warrant out for my arrest or anything. I found out when I got pulled over. So I go to jail, get bailed out, whatever. They let me out on a $5,000 bond. So I went to the bail place, or my family went to the bail place, paid $500 to get me out because it's 10%. So fast forward to whenever I get arrested at my sister's house that y'all saw on that other video. I get arrested, blah, blah, blah. Y'all know everything that happened. I get a call like a week after I get out from my attorney, my court-appointed attorney for the first case, saying, hey, what happened? You violated your bail because you got arrested, and the court officer already filed a bail violation paperwork with the judge, and I don't know if she's going to rule on it or not. If she does, she may raise your bail or revoke your bail, or she may not rule on it at all. At the time, I'd already been to court a couple of times for the first one. It's been going on since October of last year, the court cases. And we had a court date coming up on the 1st of this month. So she tells me, she's like, okay, so go in there and we're going to see if she rules on it or not. And if she doesn't, you should be good. So we go in there, they reset my court date to another day so they can pick out a jury for whatever, because I pled innocent on it. And I talked to my attorney, and she's like, well, she didn't rule on the bail violation, so you should be good. Nothing should come of that. So we'll just keep going to court on this one, and everything should be good. And she's like, by the way, they appointed me as your attorney on the one where you got arrested at your sister's house. And I was like, okay, cool. I'm happy because I didn't go to jail after court, which I was just pretty sure was a certain thing, because I thought she was going to rule on it and be like, no, your bail has been raised and we're going to arrest you right now. So that didn't happen, so I thought everything was cool. Well, fast forward to yesterday. Yesterday I get a phone call from my attorney saying that the judge, hold on. I get a phone call from my attorney saying I got good news and bad news. And she says, the good news is they dropped all the charges on the resisting arrest, the one at my sister's house. And I was like, okay, what's the bad news? And she's like, so right before they dropped all the charges, the judge ruled on your bail violation and raised your bail to $10,000, or your bond to $10,000. So you are a, it's not a felon, it's a fugitive. You are a fugitive, you need to turn yourself in, blah, blah, blah. I was like, oh, this is just absolutely fucking wonderful. So she's like, call the bail bonds place and see what they want to do. So I call the bail bonds place, and they tell me that I need to tell my attorney to go tomorrow, which was today because yesterday was Sunday. She said, tell your attorney to go tomorrow and talk to the judge and say, hey, all the charges got dropped on that resisting arrest one. He didn't do anything to get arrested. That shouldn't be a bail violation. So just set his bond back to how it was. And I was like, do you think that they'll do that? And she's like, yeah, they should, because if it happened like what you said, that they should do that. And I was like, okay. And she said, tell them that such and such at such and such bail bonds place, I'm not going to give their names, said that if you undo the warrant, that they're happy to keep the bond how it is. So I call my attorney, and I tell her, such and such at my bail bonds place said to tell you this, and I told her, and she's like, okay, hold on, let me write all that down. She writes it down, and I said, and if you could just tell the judge that since all those charges got dropped and I didn't do anything wrong, that I didn't do anything to get arrested, so it shouldn't be a bail violation. And my attorney goes, well, we're not going to talk about the merits of that other case. We're not going to talk about the merits of that other case. And I was like, but I need you to tell her this, because if I didn't, she's like, I'm trying to tell you, I already told you, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to bring that up. And I was like, I wanted to tell her, you know what? You fucking suck. You're a bitch. You work for me, not the other way around. Do what I said, but I didn't. I was just like, okay, freaking bugs. If I argue with her, she's probably not even going to go to the judge, because honestly. So anyways, so I texted her this morning and asked her, I said, did you talk to the judge? She says, well, I'm in other hearings right now. I'll talk to her in a little while. I was like, okay, just let me know. So she texted me. She says, the judge agreed to get rid of that warrant, but she wants to talk to you about it in person. I can do Wednesday at 9:30 in the morning at the courthouse. Is that okay? And I said, yeah, that sounds good to me. These people in this county are so shady. I don't have $1,000 if they arrest me to get back out. I don't. I just don't. I don't have that money. I had to go take out a title loan on my car to get the money for the bail in case I had to turn myself in. Because I didn't even find out until after I got the title loan today that the judge said that she was going to do that. I don't know if this is a trap. If I go in there and the judge is going to be like, yeah, we just said that to get you in here and you're arrested because you're a fugitive, blah, blah, blah. I need bail money to get out. So that's what I did. So I got the money to get bailed out, but it's going to be another, if that happens, I'm going to be sitting in there for another 16, 17 hours with the same people that were in there fucking me up the last time. So I'm just letting y'all know that Wednesday at 9:30, if I don't give y'all an update either Wednesday night or Thursday morning that they arrested me again, you'll know how corrupt these people are. But that's the update that I have right now. But the good thing is that since they did drop all the charges, that means that my civil case is almost guaranteed to win. Because they basically said themselves there's no merit in it by dropping all the charges. So I may not even need an attorney at this point. I may just go file the suit myself. Because it's so cut and dry now because of them dropping the charges. So tell me what y'all think. Wish me luck on my next court date for my jury trial for my deadly conduct one. Because I didn't point a gun at that dude. That guy's just crazy. And that is going to be on June the 1st at 1:30 p.m. is my jury trial. So hopefully I can go back to my life now, because the job that I was going to interview for when I got arrested on that other one, that they still wanted to hire me even after that. But when my background check went through, it showed the deadly conduct as a pending charge. So they said, while that's there, that I can't go work for them because it was a hospital I was going to go work for. I was going to go be a maintenance technician at the Methodist Hospital in San Antonio. And the guy, they actually liked me so much there that they told me, they said, once this gets off, if you get found innocent and all that, let us know and we'll still hire you. It's just we can't hire you with that on your record because you'd be working in a hospital. So after that, maybe I can go back to a normal life. I've been a stay-at-home dad since October because of this. Because I'm like, I want to go work at the hospital, and if people are going to run a background check on me and that's going to keep screwing me out of jobs, I don't want to go put in applications and have them see that. I want to make sure it's gone first. So that's just kind of where I'm at in my life right now. And then I have to deal with everything else. It's just a whole bunch of family issues that y'all don't want to hear about, but it's with my wife's side of the family. They're not a real big fan of mine. So anyways, that's my update, and I'm sticking to it. And
we strongly believe that the man was targeted during the second arrest, stemming from the fact that the officer already knew him from the initial road rage incident. This appears to be a violation of his rights and a clear disregard for due process, based solely on the assumption that he might be a criminal. When officers encountered him at his sister's house, they had no legitimate reason to suspect him of any new crime, only a prior history tied to an unresolved accusation. Such actions are not in alignment with the law and raise serious concerns about bias and abuse of authority. We will continue to monitor this case closely and provide updates as it develops.